because I couldn't go to work out this morning.
Couldn't get to work the time of the night.
Not to work with this, yeah.
Thank you for being here for this. We need to talk a little bit about the hospital.
It's slightly crooked, not much, but you can see it.
From my side, it's.
I know, and I'm sorry.
I think it's that.
Inspected the hospital authority.
It's all my fault. I take all the blame. Except that I'm gonna give FEMA some thanks.
I do, it's very slightly crooked.
This is something I think we need to know.
Oh, my husband says I can.
Stephanie, how you doing this morning?
Good, how are you?
Good, girl, good to be awake.
A bunch of claims. They're like Carol, she's just,
I'm not gonna go in
she
people's
prowls
houses.
the house looking for something
Yes.
wrong.
Yeah. I have a friend who has those laser levels and says, I was gonna get you one, and then I said, nope, I'm never getting you one of those.
Yeah, they have no coffee down at the emergency operations center.
It may just be that.
They're crazy. I don't know, they're firefighters, I think.
Are the mics on? All right, here we go. Good morning and welcome to the Water and Sewage Facilities Authority regular meeting. It is February 15th, 2023 at 8 o'clock. At this time, I'd like to request a motion to amend the agenda. I would like to take item number 10, which is new business, the entire thing, and put it directly after, just a second, let me make sure I got it right. After item number 7, which is the special committee reports. This will, in fact, will get the special committee reports, and then we will vote on those items that the special committee did, and that first. And secondly, I would like to take item number 15, which is the executive session, and put it directly after the financial reports. So in front of item number 9 or after item number 8. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I second the motion to move to new business, the items that are move the new business items to after the financial report, but before the executive session.
All right, do I have any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Thank you, motion carries. Secondly, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Unanimously, thank you. This time I'd like to ask Ms. Cheryl Matlock to deliver the invocation and Mr. Jeff Brandon to lead us in the pledge of the flag.
If you join me in prayer, please. Our Father in heaven, first of all, we thank you for all the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Secondly, we ask that you please have mercy, have grace on those who have suffered from so many tragedies in the last weeks, last month, last year, those that have suffered from the tragedies of Mother Nature, the tragedies of war. Please be with them. And finally, we ask you to be with us today as we make decisions. Please guide us in those decisions as we always seek to do your will. For we ask all these things in the holy name of Christ. Amen.
Let us pray. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, do we have anybody for
No, sir.
No, all right.
Nobody signed up.
item number 4? excuse me. Consider approval of the January 18th, 2023 regular scheduled meeting minutes as presented.
Mr. Chairman, they appear to be in order unless there's additions or corrections. I move they be approved as submitted.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carries. Item number 2, consider acceptance of the February 8th, 2023 Planning and Finance Joint Committee meeting minutes, excuse me.
We got faith in you, buddy.
I move that they be accepted.
Okay, I have a
I
motion.
second it.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carries. This time we'll have a presentation of the financial statement by the Administrative Services Director, Ms. Jenna Garrison. Good morning, Jenna.
Good morning. These financial statements are for the month ending January
Jenna, sorry.
twenty
Can you get the
twenty-three.
mic up a little bit?
These financial statements are for the month ending January 2023. And at that time, for year-to-date, you had excess revenues over expenditures of $1.3 million.
Is that because somebody gave us money, or just that's the way we're doing business?
That's the way you're doing business. You're not, I mean, if you look, you've only got $4.4 million or $5 million in expenditures. And you've got $6.4 million in revenues.
Okay.
That's nice.
Somebody should be happy.
Man, if you're not happy now, board members,
He's not even showing teeth.
okay. All right, do I have a motion to approve the financial report?
I move we accept the financial report.
Okay.
Second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Presentation of the FY 2022 audit information. Ms. Garrison?
This is the Water Authority section of the audit that's included in the county's annual financial statements. And this is as of June 30th. The first statement is the statement of net position. This is something that the Governmental Accounting Standards Board came up with to better, to allow our creditors to better see how we're operating, because instead of just equity, which is the difference between your assets and your liabilities, is showing net position, which is actually your, is mainly cash and your capital, but it's your capital net of related debt. So it, you know, it helps them to see that you do have a strong financial position. Are there any questions? You know, y'all don't have
Do we
very
have-
many strange animals on your financial statements, so.
Excuse me if I may, Mr. Chairman. So did we get, just for the Water Authority part, did we get a summary related to us? Were there any dings or possible things that they thought that we should change?
No, ma'am. For the entire county, there were no management points.
Did they talk about our fund balance, about what is a recommended fund balance? I know we're said we're working up to 1 year's.
The auditors don't really make any suggestions on a recommended fund balance.
Okay.
It's just, you know, what you've decided you want to go for.
Yeah, and I'm asking that in comparison to where the Board of Commissioners are. I mean, clearly the Water Authority is here and the Board of Commissioners is here in terms of fund balance. But when they did the audit for us, the guy talked about what would be a healthy number. And so I guess I'm just still trying to figure out, I mean, I think 365 days is huge. But in real life, do you want to tie that capital up if it's much more than we need? So that's what I was kind of looking for, to see if they had any numbers about what, you know, what could keep us solvent with good credit and still be able to use some of those revenues for projects that
Well,
we
in the
have.
county's financial policies, we have a goal set of 15% of expenditures as a fund balance number that we wanted to shoot for.
Okay,
And if you'll look down at your net position, this unrestricted portion, this is mainly your cash and cash equivalents, and your restricted assets.
Okay.
Your restricted assets is actually the cash balance of your sinking fund for your 2015 bonds. We don't just pay a big hunk of money for the principal and interest payment in September when it's due. We make monthly level payments into a sinking fund, and then the balance comes out of that. So it doesn't hit your cash all at once. And so that's what this restricted assets is. It's your sinking fund balance at
Oh,
June
okay.
30th.
that's all I have.
All right. Do I have a motion to accept the financial report, excuse me, the presentation?
I'm not through, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is just the first statement. The next statement is your statement basically of operations, revenues and expenditures. And so you can see that you had a change in net position, a positive change of $2.8 million. So that's $2.8 million excess revenues over expenditures for fiscal 2022. So doing very well. The next statement is your statement of cash flows. And you did use, you did use cash flows. You used $694,000. You had a negative cash flow. But what that means is possibly you paid off more bills, you paid off more debt. That's usually a driving force in, using cash flows. The next statement is your statement of capital assets. This is back in the footnotes section, and it just breaks down your assets by category, and it also shows depreciation. We're required to show depreciation. The next statements are your debt, and this is your 2015 bonds. We also have to include annual leave. If the county closed business, or if the Water Authority closed business on June 22nd, you would owe $8,833 in annual leave to your employees. That's how much they had accrued, so that's what that number is. And then finally, what I've given you is the, what we call the compliance section. I'm required to report those statistics by the bond covenants of the 2015 bonds, and Charlie compiles the majority of that information for me.
Thank you, Charlie.
Now I'm finished, sir.
So, no, excuse me. Comments or questions before we move on? Do anything with this?
I'm gonna be able to print out a paper copy for me. We don't have it. Can I get a copy sent?
You can have my copy.
Okay,
Oh, I can take yours, that's fine.
okay.
I'm much better at paper.
I had a question, but my brain died for a second, so I'll answer later.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the,
So moved.
all right? I have a
Second,
mo-
Mr. Chairman.
a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. All right,
I remember my question before you walk away. So Jenna, when you told us several years ago, I don't know if it was Gatsby something, that we have to start counting all of our assets and all of our liabilities. I mean, do we have, when, I know for the county, it's like how much money you've got paid in retirement and blah, 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 blah. Do we have that going on in the Water Authority? Or are we in with the county's numbers?
I don't have my statements in front of me, but it would show on the first statement, the net position,
Okay.
as your net pension liability, but I don't believe it's broken out. I believe it's all shown in the county, because the county's, is it? No, it's not broken out. It's all shown on the county's financial statements because the retirement company, when they do the actuarial valuation, they don't know
That
which employees are the
is
water
not.
authority or how to break it out. So it's all shown under the county's pension plan.
Okay.
Okay. All right, you through, ma'am?
Mm-hmm,
All right.
thank you.
Item number 3, consider acceptance of the financial report as presented by the general manager, Johnson. Thank you, Jenna, we're all done.
Thank you, Jenna.
So as of January 31st, 2023, we've sold 507 million gallons of water. We are, the revenue projection is between 2.5% and 3.5% over our budgeted
You and I can look at this.
revenues. And we have 223 days in our operating reserves.
Very healthy.
That's about as healthy a balance sheet as you get, guys. This is as good as it gets for people.
We need more money.
Yeah, buddy.
You
Okay,
start playing Cash 3 then.
yes. All right, any comments or questions about this? All right, do I have a motion to accept?
I move we accept the financial report.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All right, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All right, thank you. Motion carries. Item number 8, special committee reports. Mr. Morrow and Ms. Madlock.
Did
if
you
you-
change this to 10? Go to 10 after 7?
No, we're going to do special report.
Okay.
I'm
after
sorry,
seven.
I may have screwed that up.
Okay.
Special committee reports, then we'll go to
Gotcha, all right.
the decisions.
Okay, we had a very good joint meeting on the planning committee side. We had a unanimous agreement that you'll see here to report on shortly on the, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, the Community Services LLC sewer service area. And by the way, I think the committee system is working good. We had very active participation from folks, and we covered a lot of stuff, so.
Cool.
And you'll get that motion shortly.
Okay,
And the finance committee is proposing no rate change for this year.
okay.
Yes.
How about the Flint River?
Joseph brought us up to date on that, and the budget's gonna work out good, and it's moving along, so
Okay,
no big problems.
and Pine Glen?
That's gonna be discussed later.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we covered it all.
That's involved.
All right, at this time, we will take and move to new business. Consider approval of the resolution defining the Community Service LLC sewer service area.
As just discussed, we have a consensus to approve that as presented, and I move we do so.
All right, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Question. How, if anything, does us helping to define the sewer service area for community service work into our master plan, in terms of service delivery?
So by now defining how it's going to expand and where it's going to be capped, now we have a better understanding of the areas we need to serve.
Okay, so we're basically giving them permission to serve certain areas.
Yeah, so the map that you see shows the existing capacity commitments. And the language that supports that map says you can expand in any geographic location adjacent to you up to a threshold of 1.35 million gallons a day. So obviously it would be in Minerva or Troublesome Creek's best interest to not expand over 1941 in the Shoal Creek side. So sewer naturally is going to expand adjacent to where it's currently at. So the protections that we're going to put in place as the water authority when the development comes in, we're going to make sure their assets and their infrastructure is sized according to the entire basin and not just basically on a subdivision level.
So when I'm looking at this map and I'm looking at the dotted lines, did I just hear you say that that community sewer would know that they could, develop adjacent to those lines? Because, or we're saying these are the lines that you have to stay within based on the sewer capacity that you have?
They
So
do
the-
it with approval from you based on certain conditions.
To go outside of those?
Yes, to go
Correct.
outside of those lines.
Okay, so my other question, and I'm probably in the wrong spot asking this, do we get something for that? I mean, we're giving away our sewer.
You've
me-
already, you gave it
I
away
know
a long
we've given
time
away
ago.
some of it, but I'm saying these lines that we have defined actually expand a little bit on the area that they said.
Just the
No, they
opposite.
don't.
We have just defined where they could go, because before, they could go anywhere they wanted to, just basically. Now we've saying, this is the area that you're allowed to go into. You can't
And
go out without.
if
Yeah,
you-
that's how we wound up with the 2 blue boxes instead of 1 big blue box.
That's right.
So I guess then my big question is that, or my concern is that, as an authority, we should not be giving away anything unless we are reciprocated for it. So that's
You're
your.
taken back, actually.
Yeah, okay,
taking back.
all right.
Yes, and in the future, we won't do that again. We let them get out of the box. We've now
Now
put them
we
into
close the
box.
box, okay.
And now, anybody who else wants to get out of the box is gonna,
Have to come to us to get out of it.
yes.
All right, I get it now. Thank
And
you.
Dr. Ledbetter has pointed out that the higher density of development equals more property taxes.
And more expense.
Yeah.
Yes, all right.
Well, just one more question.
Uh-huh.
We are gonna be protected, once everybody agrees to this, that they're gonna size the equipment
So
for this is.
that's going to be the discussion that we have in the plan review process. So as a condition of a development being approved, they're going to have to submit their design information to us for us to review. That's going to be the discussion that we have.
Is that a policy or something that we need to enact, or, if Joseph disappears tomorrow, I don't want them doing the bare minimum.
We need to put that in our development standards.
Can you put that on your list of things to do?
I will,
please?
yep.
Development of standards for the water authority?
Water authority.
Okay.
So the development standards of the water authority is separate from the ordinances of Spalding County,
Okay.
but we do supplement. We will supplement, but we're going to basically reinforce Spalding County's ordinances, but we're just looking at the horizontal infrastructure underground.
Okay, I'm sorry, Stephanie, we have both the motion and, okay, and have we voted?
No.
No.
Okay, all right, any more discussion? This is a big step. If you remember, we stopped them, held them for a while. Now we're back to almost finished up with this thing. All right, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. Item number 2, consider approval of the 2023 Water Authority retail water rates as recommended by the Finance Committee. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yes, that comes as a motion.
I have a
from
motion. Do I have a
finance.
second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I think it was in the minutes, but for the record for this meeting, I think we just need to say why our decision was to accept the water rate and the decision that we made not to increase our rate.
So, based on the presentation from the City of Griffin's letter and Exhibit B, where they broke down the wholesale rate, you'll notice there's 3 significant drops in costs. Well, when we asked the city what that's from, they said it's basically a timing issue where there were funds that were supposed to be expensed in FY23 that are now going to roll over into FY24. So this decrease is just a temporary blip. So they didn't anticipate this decrease this year.
If I may just go down a rabbit hole for a second. When we did our water contract, and y'all correct me because you know I get part of the story. Part of what I understood was that as each year passed, we were supposed to get a water rate decrease anyway, and at some point.
You understood that correctly.
Okay, So where you at? This was just a blip. This
That was a
the
garbage,
beginning.
that was a garbage estimate, regardless of what anybody wants to say, because
Yeah,
nothing's getting cheaper on this planet.
So that's, I'm just trying to find out, are we actually working to that thing that they said we were going to be, our rates were gonna go down so much
So
after about
the
5
way our
years?
rates are affected is the more volume that the city of Griffin brings online wholesale, the better, the cheaper it becomes for all the other wholesale customers. So the Coweta contract went to
Yes.
5 million gallons a day, take or pay. That went into effect in, I think, June of last year. So if we're gonna see a benefit from it, we'll see it next year. That's when we'll start seeing that increased volume. But remember, unless the city of Griffin finds ways to bring in another Coweta will go away in 2035.
And the chemical costs went up about 25% too.
So that was what everybody, this was a bond issue that was going, the payer get it, and it was supposed to drop down. It's
Yep.
going to take another year for that, for us to start to see that. So everything they have said so far to us, as far as I'm concerned, is right on line. But we will see if it, next year,
And-
if that in fact happens to us.
And I've requested from Brandon and the city what our next year's projection looks like. So
Okay.
I'll advise everybody when I get it.
Problem we have is projections were made in 2021 numbers, and so with this inflationary,
Whoop.
what we've had, the dollars we're talking about today are not the dollars we're talking about a year or so.
Yeah, it's
So
not, I just,
I know, I'm just saying, we signed a contract, and that was a big deal as people were accepting the fact that based on their projections,
And-
the rates should start.
And it will help.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just wanna
when
make
you,
sure my
when you,
brain was understanding.
when you sign a contract, you should make sure the price decreases are actually in the contract.
Okay.
Okay. Where am I?
Okay, you already voted, I just would jump
Okay.
in and went down a
Okay.
rabbit hole.
All right, item number 3.
You didn't vote, sir.
Oh,
Oh,
all those in favor signify by raising your hand. Unanimous, thank you. Item number 3,
Thanks.
review of bids and award of contract for the Flint River Waterline Relocation Project. Request motion to approve the recommendation from Paragon to award the contract to Robert Halling and Pipeline Construction Incorporated in the amount of $725,930 with an alternative of $30,000 for a total of $755,930.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve.
All right, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. All right, unanimous, thank you. At this time, we are going to go into, I call for a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Unanimous. We're in executive session. Please, let's move to the other room.
I do it. What's that?
Ready?
Carly, we ready?
Can I have a request a motion to return to open session?
Mr. Chairman,
No,
I'd like
excuse
to,
me, to cease executive session.
I'd
Yes,
like
sir,
to make
that's
a
my
motion
We
to.
cease executive session.
All right,
Second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand.
And Mr.
Unanimous.
Chairman, I move we return to open session.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. All right, thank you. Now, let's get back to, I think this is back to General Manager's report. Okay. All right, item number 9, General Manager's report. Is that where everybody? Okay,
Oh, boy, I
Did
think
we
so.
do the committee, special committee?
yes.
Okay.
All right,
So the non-revenue water report you're looking at, in January, we put a total of, well, we have a total of 11,716,000 gallons of water that's hit the ground. As you see, January is about in line with where we would anticipate looking at the last 12 months. We've had 160 60 occurrences, and our average pressure in the system is 106 based on the leak locations. Any questions with the non-revenue water?
Is there any way I can make this picture bigger?
Put it on your iPad and use 2 fingers.
she'll,
That's too much.
Oh, thank you. I can read it now.
So
Okay.
moving on, any questions? Okay, moving on to the fire hydrant maintenance report. In January of 2023, we had 160 serviced hydrants. We are still working to get that number to where it needs to be to hit it, touch all the hydrants in 12 months. And then the water
So
meter.
what percentage are we just started, we started in October, we just started in January?
So
The the recount. I know we started last year, but did we start?
So now all the reports you see are gonna be on a fiscal year basis, so they're gonna be starting July 1.
Okay.
Yep. And to update, this number should be getting better by the month because we are ever so slowly getting, Mr. Elliott transitioned to this, aspect, maintenance aspect. All right, the water sales report. What you're looking at is a little, it's in your face at this point. So if you look at current year versus historical, we're 60%. Well, I can't tell you that's an accurate number. That's just based on the information that we've been provided. I think we have a big delay coming out of community development with their software upgrade. We're not getting information, and when it happens, it's gonna happen, the floodgate's gonna open. So to put this in perspective, at this point in time, based on this report, we should have been close to 214 meter purchases. We've only had 128. Well, building hasn't stopped. So I think it's when the dam breaks, we're gonna get a mass influx of meter purchase requests. But there's no indication to think that we're gonna be off our target on meter sales this year.
I wouldn't think so.
I've got to comment at this point that sitting in the planning meetings and stuff, talking, Joseph's capture of data is phenomenal, things he sees, and that keeps popping up where the problems are.
Well, one thing that
It's amazing what you've discovered by collecting data and looking at it.
I'll tell you, it was a profound statement that one of my professors at UNC said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
oh,
So
Amen.
now that we're finally measuring things, and the water authority's had a litany, a plethora of data. A plethora of data. It was just not in a usable format. Now, we're starting to get in a usable format where when we have a question or when you pose a question, we go back to the data set and say, well, what does it tell us? And then we may end up going down a different rabbit hole. But that's the fun part.
That's the advantage of general manager, of where we've got, and we're on that transitional period where we start to get smarter. Go ahead.
So does anybody have any questions about the reports that you looked at?
No.
You know, I just wish there was some way to mitigate the flood happening once the log jam breaks. We don't even
Yes.
have any idea when that's gonna be, but yeah,
Well, it's
get you some rain boots.
it's getting closer by the minute.
Yes, 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 it is.
Okay, moving on to the projects. So an update on the feasibility study. We should be getting our draft flow projections and the technical memorandum February 20th of this month. The plant, number one, decommission. Things have been slow at the beginning of the year due to the rain and the weather. But based on our understanding from the engineer and the contractor, they're going to want to start closing this job up in the next 30 days. So once I officially get a indication from the contractor that he's honing in on the last 30 days, we're going to start the conversations with Mr. Elliott to get him, see how receptive he is of not being a wastewater operator, but being a utility maintenance tech. So we're going to start that transition process with him.
How many phases did we have up in Dundee?
2.
2. So we're finished phase 1, we're in phase 2?
Phase 2, there was a total of 3 projection to finish out that area, but we've only done CDBG phase 2.
Okay.
And we'll be discussing at the next, or at future planning and finance meetings, if it's the wish of the board to continue in phase 3 or look at another area for CDBGs. Looking at Dundee phase 2, the clearing activities have been minimal and the sewer manholes are on site. We're just waiting on ring and covers. But at this point, there's really no indication or no thinking that this project ain't gonna meet the timeline. And then the Flint River Bridge relocation. So we've reached out to our utility rep with the state. The state is reviewing the contract for the reimbursement. He anticipates us having a contract from the state to sign within the next 14 days. And all the property owners have been engaged, and we're waiting for the negotiations with Price to be on the easements. The update on the City of Griffin audit of customers, the data has been received and analyzed. And then looking at the preliminary plat, construction plan, approved land disturbance, and final plat phases, we're now beginning to try to differentiate and show you projects or developments as they stand in the queue in community development. So this is going to be a dynamic way that we're going to present this. Hopefully it will be in a chart form where it'll be similar to a typical report you see, because right now a bunch of words in a paragraph doesn't really mean anything. It's tough to understand, but everything there in the construction plan review, there's nothing that the only one that I want to hone in on is the Pine Glen Mobile Home Park. As everybody knows, that area, that subdivision was hit pretty terribly by the tornado. Well, the Water Authority was engaged by the engineer in November of last year on a water line extension. We've gone back and forth. We had that issue that we talked about at the planning meeting regarding the fire department's comments that were going to require fire flow. Well, we have since met with the fire department and the state fire marshal, and our interpretation is correct. The changing water source is not a significant enough change to require a fire system improvement inside the development. So that's a win. Based on that information, we contacted the engineer, told him, this is how we're going to address this comment. A note was added to the plans that stated any future internal development upgrades that increase capacity or flow will automatically require the development to meet the current fire flow requirements as required by Spalding County. So that's the catch that we made the developer, we put them on notice that that's fine, what you're doing now, but if you do any upgrades to your system internally, all bets are off. You're gonna have to meet current fire flow requirements.
Does everybody understand? This is a big issue that we can't do anything with right this minute with Pine Glen, but in the future, we'll be able to do it.
That's a big issue with the county dealing with the whole
Yes.
situation.
Yes, so this is a changeover. I was.
That's a great catch, too.
Yeah, I was not happy the way this was turning out, that Pine Glen wasn't gonna have fire hydrants. I thought everybody should have fire hydrants in the system, but that's not the way it was written then.
So per the state fire marshal, anytime, if you want to fall under the code, the current code that's enacted, the International Fire Code that Spalding County adopted, you have to have an upgrade or a substantial change in operation. Well, all they're doing is going from a groundwater well to a more reliable public water system. Their existing infrastructure was never sized for fire flow, so they would have to spend probably $750,000 to put fire lines in that development. And the owner would not go for that. He said he couldn't afford it. And honestly, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that the residents of Pine Glen have reliable, clean drinking water.
Is there a fire hydrant at the entrance?
That's
So
exactly what I was gonna
we are
ask.
making
Where
them
is
pull a 6-inch line under 155 on that side of the road. So they're doing that to satisfy Spalding County Fire Department, but it's not going to be within that $500 or 500-foot metric to every building.
But you could conceivably put a fire hydrant at the entrance.
Yes, and it is.
And they'd be better off than they are.
And it is, yes.
So they have a fire hydrant, or we're gonna get a fire hydrant?
We're requiring
That
them.
is my big
Yep.
thing, is making sure that we can provide them water, but if there's an emergency, I don't want us having to go halfway down the road to
That's-
get to a fire
Well,
hydrant
yeah,
to
that-
get back to.
Well,
them.
and the cool thing about it is we made them, they originally just wanted to pull a service, bore 155 and pull a 2-inch service. We said, no, that's not going to happen. We're requiring them a 6-inch fire line to be, or fire hydrant to be brought in, extended. But the casing has been sized where if any other future developer buys that piece of property and wants to develop it, they can re-sleeve a larger pipe size. So I think we had a good catch.
Yeah, we're as good as we're gonna get right now.
That's right.
But it's a whole heck of a lot better for the residents out there
That's
than it
right.
has been.
What is the timing on this?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same.
All right, so the plans are, we're waiting for the official 5 copies to be submitted for signing. I submitted the GDOT permit yesterday. As soon as we have an approved utility permit till that GDOT allows that work to be within their right of way, we'll schedule the pre-con, and per the owner, he's looking at construction March 1st.
Yes.
Joseph, so they're running a 6-inch line for service and fire protect for.
Yeah,
for the
so what
hydrant.
they'll do is they'll put the fire hydrant, they'll come off with a 2-inch service, and then we've already acquired the 2-inch meter. We reached out to our supplier, and there was only one 2-inch meter that met this specification. We went ahead and acquired it. The contractor would just purchase it from us.
Yeah,
Because
more
if
than
not, they were gonna
state.
be on a 12-month lead time.
So,
Thank you.
so when will they be able to get water from us? I heard somebody say that's down the road, but I mean, clearly
It could
They
be,
needed it.
so as soon as we get the permit, the GDOT permit, and we've reached out to the state and said, hey, this is a big emergency, they're pushing it through the pipeline as fast as they can. I mean, per the checklist that I received from their contractor, they want March 1st and an ending period of March 31st. This line could literally, the longest part is boring the road. It could be put in within a week of once everything gets, we have all the permits we need.
It's gonna be about $4,500 in revenue.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great
That's
news
like-
story for
We'll
residents.
kick
our
in the fire hydrant.
community. So we've done good stuff. this is all the way around a tree to get to where we are, so that was good work on it. So thank you.
And as a planning committee, item, I just wonder if we'll get to a place where we can start talking about these other places who are on private, sewer lines that we've had complaints about.
So, Charlie, did we include the permitted water systems? Oh, well, I went back and I got the information that was requested, and I'll send this out after the meeting. But you're looking at Cumberland Springs is a private system. Per the state's permit, they serve a population of 122 people. You have Southampton Mobile Home Park, a population of 1,066.
That's who we get the most complaints.
And then you have Ponderosa is 234. So there's three.
Wow.
And Pine Glen was on this list, but there's still going to be a permitted private water system. Their permit will be changed from groundwater source to a purchased water source.
Okay.
So that's the difference. They're still going to have to submit monthly reports to the state just like we do.
And
So-
just so y'all know, Cumberland is, while it's not a whole lot of residents, they're having a lot of stormwater issues out there, and the county has already been sued based on that. So they have not done anything to keep up those lines probably since that subdivision was developed.
So, yeah, we don't even have a stormwater program. And I don't even know, for me, it's been an issue that when we're allowing these developments to develop, we're not looking at if and when we get a stormwater, that we're having them to set it up in such a way that we can accommodate that. And I don't know if that's a water authority thing or planning and a zoning thing.
So stormwater is a county function.
It's also a state requirement.
It is a state requirement. Touching on, going back to Wade's comment regarding private sewer standards, I think it would probably behoove the water authority to put controls on private water systems in our ordinances. I'll get with the state of Georgia and ask them what legally we can do on enforcement on our side. Because if we have teeth that when someone comes in and they want to be a private water system, we can say, well, in order for us to approve this, you'll have to do A, B, and C. Because the state has those, they have the teeth. I just want to make sure that we can help drive that.
I think it should be the policy, we don't allow any more of them.
Yeah.
Well, per the water sales agreement, we agreed that we would drive all new customers to tying off our water system and not private systems. So one of the things that we've been doing internally is, as a developer comes in, we say, we will allow wells for irrigation purposes only. If you have water, you're tying to our water. So that's just per the contract. We're doing exactly what we told Griffin we would do, and we're trying to push people, but if they want to push back, then we just need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves.
Coverage in the county, it's less and less likely anybody even consider that. So
That's right.
we can supply.
Except for those large acreage tracts that sometimes come before the Board
Horses,
of
yeah.
Commissioners, that, these are 12 and 15 acres, they want to be
Yep.
on well and septic,
Yep.
they don't want county water, they don't want fire hydrants. That kind of thing gets seen every now and then.
Yeah. Once a year, twice a year.
There's a lot of things I want in life too, but I don't always get them.
Well, yeah, and I think our obligation, I feel like our obligation as a water authority is that when we have a bulk of people, and this is basically a community at Pine Glen or Southampton, that we have a responsibility, even though you're private, we should have a responsibility to make sure that people are getting safe drinking water and that it's being checked and that they're following the standards.
And when it comes to Pine Glen, water period.
Yes,
because
water
there are
period.
weeks without water.
Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you. Good work on
Thanks, Joe.
Pine Glen. We appreciate that.
So you're gonna look into these other private water operators and see if there's anything we can do to nudge them,
I mean, so,
states, standards, that kind of thing?
yeah, I mean, there's with them being a permitted water system through the state, our jurisdiction really stops. We don't have any way to enforce anything. The state is their regulatory agency. But
Diplomat hat on?
do what?
As
You
long
put your
as they're
diplomat
doing,
hat on?
I did, thank you. Thank you for
as
noticing.
long as they're doing the state minimum and, you know, testing the water annually or however often, and then there's really not anything that we can do for existing.
The flip side to that is, based on my understanding of public water system design criteria, if you have a minimum, or if you have a private system, and a private system is you serve more than 25 people. So, yeah, you may be on a well, and yes, you have a private water system, but you're not permitted through the state. So we're talking private permitted water systems through the state. If the system fails, the state could come back and say, okay, Spalding County Water Authority, they're in your service area, you are going to take them over. If that's the case, then now we have a leg to stand on saying, well, if in order for us to protect ourselves, now the state's going to give us direction on how we can kind of put roadblocks or guardrails up to mitigate our loss. Because, I mean, it is a liability. These 3 parks could be a huge liability for us if the state comes down and says, oh, by the way, they can't comply, you can comply, and we can force you to do it, so go do it. It'd
And
be,
then you bear the cost of upgrading all their
That's right.
bad infrastructure.
that's right.
Joe, like the people at Southampton, I know at least 3 different occasions I've had calls from people up there where maybe there was a fire and then they used all the water and they didn't have water for a couple of days. And when that happens, they can't get in touch with the owner. They can go to the property manager, but they don't answer back. And I mean, so clearly there are some issues. And when you're talking about 200 people in a small area, or 1,000 people, you know,
You're right.
as a citizen, I would be looking at this and saying, well, why doesn't the county do something? Which I know, you know, they can't, but I think we just really need to look at what our liabilities are and how we can lessen.
As far as liabilities, there are none. These are actually private matters. When you're talking about the mobile home parks, there are ground leases for those lots. And so and sometimes for the mobile home itself. Sometimes people bring their own mobile home in and they're just leasing the dirt.
Okay.
But it's in whatever their lease says is what's going to control as far as that goes. So, and on the part of Pine Glen, those tenants need to be suing their
They're whoever,
landlord.
yeah.
They don't have the wherewithal to do anything like that.
Mr.
They're
Chairman, we
fine.
beat the private water system to death.
Okay. All right, let's go on.
And I think that's everything from, there are no new developments that really stand out other than the Pine Glen mobile home
All
park.
right. Do I have a motion to accept the general manager's report?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Unanimous. Thank you. All right, next item is number 9. I think I've covered everything. Our next regular scheduled meeting will be held on March 15th at 8:30 a.m. in this building, this location. All right, general manager comments?
None.
Okay. Authority members, we'll start over with Ms. Fanny.
I just want to say thanks to General Manager Joseph for all the diligence and hard work and eagle eyes and all those things he's done and working for the betterment of the total improvement in Spalding County. So I just want to applaud him for that. I want to applaud this authority for having the foresight to hire such a person.
Yeah, thank you.
Charlie brought up, I do want to mention, we met with the Pine Tree Hill HOA on Sunday with the Department of Public Health official Kelly Wilson. It's the consensus of the residents in the area that we look at trying to survey this area again. So I'm planning to present an area to the next planning committee that if it's agreed upon, we can then look at doing a survey to see if the need of the, and the homeowners can be met through a CDBG grant. So we are actively, I know it's something that many of the board members have stated many times, so we are actively engaged in that community, and we're gonna see if we can't get that area surveyed for a possible upcoming CDBG grant.
Ah, super.
And may I say, Chair, I'm sorry, an addendum, or thanks to Joseph, he's attended the last couple of meetings of our association, and it's been very helpful because the community is seeing some concern for us at finance, and thanks for all of you who have been supportive of the idea.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
That's it.
All right.
Sorry.
Ms. Wanda?
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Cheryl?
I'm in concurrence. I appreciate all that Joseph and Charlie both have done.
Mrs., yes.
Amen to that. And one question, have you had any luck finding some help?
So we have finally, I carved out enough time to get Miles the information he needed to put the jobs on the website. So I'm hoping, I'll follow up today, but hopefully that should be on the website and posted this week. That would be excellent.
Okay. Yeah.
Agree with the other comments, members' comments.
Oh. Yep. Vice Chair?
Joseph's doing all right, I guess.
Okay.
What is the status of the conflict attorney? RFP or Q, I can't even remember what we're asking for now.
So the RFP was drafted, but I didn't get any direction from the board to actually advertise it.
Wasn't that to handle the water contract, the one we approved today, the
No, well, that was one of the
Community
things,
service.
but the biggest thing was the negotiation between, Spalding County and us over what happens to Sun City if the people disappear one day and stop taking care of the sewer plant. And that was something that Stephanie had recused herself from because she can't represent both parties.
well, at the moment, that's not a conflict.
It needs to be addressed, and we've agreed on it about 6 months ago, so
I thought we said we would do that when we came closer to that actually happening, occurrence.
But we settled the, part of that was the problem with Sun City and the sewers, which we've all agreed to, so is it,
And it was at that time that I thought we said we were gonna leave it
Well,
be
I
for now.
think that, I don't remember us talking about it, but I agree with Wade, because when the Dundee Mills and Highland sewer system, the people walked away from that, it was dumped in the county's lap.
Yeah, there's no
Not dumped
warning.
in the water authority's lap, which the county clearly doesn't do sewer, doesn't do water, so, I understand we're not there, but we've been there, and I think that it's important that we at least look at how we will address it if it happens.
I think it's ready to go if, whenever necessary. I mean, for me personally, I wouldn't necessarily want to obligate myself to anything that might not happen for 6 months or a year or ever.
Well, I mean, I don't even think that we've discussed what it would be like if that were the situation, because at the
We
end of the
haven't.
day, the people who would be being disturbed if this happens through no fault of their own, the onus is still gonna be either on the county, who signed that for them to have the plant in the first place, but really, it's not them, it's us.
It's to negotiate what would happen in the event it ever did happen. And I don't see any reason to put that off. Why would you want to do that later or at the time it happens, then just go ahead and do it now and have the plan sitting on the shelf? That's what I don't understand.
Maybe we can have it come to the planning committee, or, send it to everyone so they can look at it and we can discuss it and bring it back for,
Time frame.
In our last meeting, it was almost ready, and it was supposed to have been in this meeting.
All right.
No, that was the meeting before. At the last meeting, it was actually attached to your agenda
all right,
packet.
let's do this. Let's put on a planning committee and talk about some scope of what it is we really want to do at this time. So
right.
we
And
need to
there's some hashing
define it a
out that
little
needs to
better.
be, and
Yeah.
we can see what it is that Stephanie has that we feel like we're working in the framework of.
Okay. Okay. Anything else, sir?
That's it. That's just something that needs to be addressed before it happens.
Ms. Quinn?
I just wanted to, I'm second guessing Joseph. I believe that if we're able to do a CDBG at Pine Tree, we will finally get something done that we've tried to work with the city and not had success with. However, I would also like for us to consider, just consider simultaneously looking at what a project would look like in East Griffin. They basically meet most of the same criteria that the Highland Mill people met. And just in case we don't make it at Pine Tree in that whole area, I don't want us to have to start back over looking for, like we did with the project up at Dundee. When Pine Tree didn't go, we had put all of our apples into that basket, and then when it didn't go, we had to start all back over looking for a place. So I can speak about East Griffin because I know that there are all of those houses are on septic tanks just about in the county, just adjacent to the city. So there may be some other areas that we want to look at, but when we're starting to look at what can happen with redevelopment or who's gonna have the next septic tank failures, I think if we look at historically, East Griffin is definitely in that area. So maybe when the planning committee starts looking at this, they can, we can figure out that, you know, do we want to go into this? This is all of our apples, and if we get to the end, we'll miss the CDBG and not really have a second plan to make us go.
Yeah.
So that's all I have.
Okay.
Did somebody have a comment over there? Okay.
Well, I think this is a county issue. The county ought to designate East Griffin because it's
A
a
redevelopment
disaster
area.
in the making.
Yes. There's a whole bunch of, yes. Okay. Anything else, ma'am?
That's
Okay.
it.
County Attorney?
If you ever want to be water first, you've got to be thinking about these septic tank failures and requirements that you would have to put on folks as far as reporting things about septic tanks as well. So I know that for the authority, that could be a long time coming because there are so many folks on septic tanks, but it's just something to think about.
Here's my question. Septic tanks are really not under our purview. They're under the county health department and so on. So do we actually get involved in that under water first, or is it the county and the health department?
When those Water First presentations were made to us, those
It
were
was us.
policies that we would need to put in place, or at least policies that we would have to recommend to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. The second part of that sounds reasonable to me.
Because if I'm not mistaken, the Water First designation is to the county. We would supplement the county's information with our policies because we are the water and wastewater authority.
But I don't think we have any
Last
power
ti-
over septic tanks, which is health department and state regulated.
Correct. We could just provide guidance to the county saying, you're gonna have to adopt a septic tank ordinance that lays out the requirement of a homeowner.
And I don't know that the Board of Commissioners would even be considering that without a recommendation from
So
this
we're
body.
the moral authority on that one.
That's right.
Yeah, as I remember, Water First with us, we're all done. The city, the authority is all done with their portion. Everything went from us and said the county had to do the rest of it.
Mainly, it boils down to a stormwater. They
Yeah.
have to address stormwater,
And that's a county issue.
and that's a
so
county issue.
Make sure everybody understands. I think our skirts are all clean on what we have to do for Water First. It is all on the county's back to be able to do that, as Gwen and I sit here side by side.
And my understanding from Dr. Ledbetter is the stormwater utility plan is in the works.
Yes, yes.
Currently.
Yes. All right. Charlie, any comments? Okay. Last thing, thanks everybody for 8 o'clock instead of 8:30. I know that's not looking back, but I know that that's an awkward time to be able to change your life, to be able to do that, so I appreciate everybody getting ready to do this. I want to make sure everybody continues to realize this is a long-range thing. We've got a number of long-range stuff going on. The general manager coming on is a long-range thing. He's finding stuff. He will continue to find stuff for the next year or so to be able to get something done, and we need to just not be surprised every time he comes up and says, oh, here's another thing I found, and just say, all right, let's take it and we'll solve that problem.
Well, you just
Same
cut
thing
me
with the,
out. I'm too old to be long range, so thank you very much.
yeah.
You'll do fine.
Yeah.
fuck you up.
And same thing with, don't forget, I hope all of you are thinking through the sewer business. This is going to be a major decision that's coming to us, and it's almost right around the corner. June is going to be here, and then it's going to be us decide. So please take time to think about it, what we're doing, how we're doing it. And a comment I'll make is, I spent some time with a commissioner from Henry County, and he has been a commissioner for a long period of time, and he said the issue of when they got sewer up and running full-time is when their county exploded. And he said, there's some good in that explosion, and there's some bad in that explosion. He said, be very careful in what you're doing when you jump into the sewer business, because some of that bad stuff is really bad. And so think through it, so I'm just telling you, continue to think through it.
That brings up a question we've got, sorry, but you said that we're going to get the Gresham-Smith report in February 20th, bro?
That's the estimated time.
Is that
yes.
going to be a workshop, or we're going to listen to all that in one of these meetings? Do we have
No,
any
so
comment?
what I'll do is, when I get the information, we'll discuss it in the planning, and we'll bring it up in the finance committee, just to give an overview. But at this point, the next steps would be is, if, based on the flow projections, it would be, I would need everybody's approval to say, okay, this makes sense. Let's move into the next step, because until we bless their technical memorandum, they're not going to move on to the subsequent phases, which are the intergovernment agreements, the IJA possibilities with the different municipalities, then the subsequent tasks after that.
Okay, everybody square on that? This is going to be a huge issue. So everybody, please think through what you want our county to look like, because once sewer is here, it will change the face of our county. And the people who are responsible for what that county looks like, this group right here. So this is a big, huge issue. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second, all right, any more discussion? All those in favor, signify by raise your hand. We're adjourned, thank you.
You got to be fast with your.
Turn the mics off.